Welcome to today's lesson. Our learning target today is I can find the lowest common multiple of two numbers. Now, all three words, lowest common and multiple, might seem unfamiliar, so let's dig into those first. Okay, so what is the lowest common multiple? Well, let's break this down. Let's start with the word multiple. A multiple is a product of one number times another number. For example, let's look at multiples of 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So we say 6 is a multiple of 2. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 is a multiple of 2. 2 times 7 is 14. 14 is a multiple of 2. 2 times 10 is 20. 20 is another multiple of 2. So we can say 6, 10, 14, 20, and any other number you'd multiply by 2 is a multiple of 2. Now, backing up, the word common simply means shared, something that two things have in common. In our case today, we're going to look at two different numbers and look for the multiples that they have in common. And lowest just means least or smallest. So let's look at some more examples of what we mean when we're talking about the lowest common multiple of two numbers, okay? Actually, let me pause. The reason we're learning about lowest common multiples is because we can use the lowest common multiple as an efficient way to add and subtract unlike fractions. Okay, so today's lesson is going to lead into our second strategy for adding and subtracting unlike fractions beginning tomorrow. All right, back to what are we talking about here? Well, we have two numbers. Here we have 2 and 3. Okay, so I'm going to use blue for 2, and I'm going to write the number 2 down here next to our first row. And it's here in this row that we're going to record multiples of 2. Okay, and I'm going to use red for the number 3, and I'm going to take our number 3 right here, and I'm going to bring it down and write it next to our second row, where we'll record multiples of 3. All right, and what we're looking for is the first time, the smallest number, the smallest multiple that 2 and 3 have in common. In other words, the smallest multiple that shows up on both lists. All right, so let's do that. Let's start with number 2. All right, we have 2 times 1. Well, that's easy. That's 2. So we can say that 2 is a multiple of 2. Let's keep going here. How about 2 times 2? Well, that's 4. So we can say 4 is a multiple of 2. Let's do one more. How about 2 times 3? Well, that's 6. All right, we've got enough multiples of 2. Now, let's find some multiples of 3. Okay, let's do 3 times 1. And that's 3. Let's do 3 times 2. And that's 6. Oh, do you see what I see? Yep, that's right. We have our lowest common multiple for the numbers 2 and 3. And that lowest common multiple is 6 because it's the smallest, the lowest. Common, it shows up on both lists. It's something that 2 and 3 have in common. Multiple, it's the number we got when we multiplied 2 by a number and 3 by a number that exists for 2 and 3. So for today, we're done. We're not going to apply it to adding and subtracting. We're just trying to find lowest common multiples. Let's do another one. Let's take a look here at the numbers 8 and 10. All right, so in the last problem, like the last problem, I'm going to write the number 8 next to our first row of multiples, and I'm going to record the number 10 and its multiples in this second row. So let's start recording multiples here. All right, let's do 8 times 1. That's 8. Let's do 8 times 2. That's 16. And let's do 8 times 3. And that's 24. So 8, 16, and 24, we say they are multiples of 8 because we multiply to get times 8 to get these numbers. Now let's switch over to finding some multiples of 10. Okay, let's do 10 times 1. That's 10. We say 10 is a multiple of 10. Let's do 10 times 2. That's 20. 20 is another multiple of 10. How about 10 times 3? That's 30. We say 30 is a multiple of 10. Now, let's pause. Do we see a multiple that these two numbers have in common yet? No, we don't. So we're going to move on. I'm going to jump back now. I'm going to find a few more multiples of 8, okay? How about 8 times 4? Let's see, that's 32. And I'm going to switch over now, just do them one at a time. Let's do 10 times 4, and that's 40. Nothing in common yet, but I see something. Do you see what I see? Uh-huh. I wonder if you do. Let's see. 8 times 5, our very next multiple of 8, is 40. And ta-da, look what we have here. The same multiple now appears in both lists. 8 and 10, their lowest common multiple is 40. It's the smallest shared multiple for 8 and 10. All right, let's get you involved in this last example. And this time, I want you to do much more of the work, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and copy down 12 next to our first row and 15 next to our second row. Now, can you come up with the first two multiples for 12 and the first two multiples for 15? Go ahead and do that on your own right now, and then we'll see if we match up after. Okay, did you say that 12 times 1 is 12 and that 12 times 2 is 24? Now we can say that 12 and 24 are multiples of 12, right? Okay, and did you say that 15 times 1 is 15 and that 15 times 2 is 30? We can say that 15 and 30 are multiples of 15. Do we see any common multiples yet? We don't. We need to keep finding multiples. So let's keep going. Let's go back to 12 now. 12 times 3, what's that? 36. How about 15 times 3? That's 45. I've memorized my 15 tables. It's really helpful. I know it's an extra bonus thing, but if you ever wanted to do that, it's super helpful because 15 is a pretty common number. All right, let's go back to 12. Let's do 12 times 4. Let's see, that's 48, because I know my 12s tables too. Thank you, Reflex Math. Let's do 15 times 4, and that is 60. Nothing in common yet, but, I see it's coming. What if we did 12 times 5 and find our next multiple of 12? That is 60. And look what we found. We found the lowest common multiple for the numbers 12 and 15. And that lowest common multiple is 60. All right, this is the work you'll do today. You're going to be given a pair of numbers. You'll use a table just like this. You're going to list out the multiples of each until you find the lowest common multiple. That's the first one you get to, the smallest one. And then you're done. You don't have to do or fill out all the boxes in both rows if you've already found the lowest common multiple. That's where you stop after each pair of numbers. All right, today's learning target is I can find the lowest common multiple of two numbers. And again, we're going to use this tomorrow in our new method for adding and subtracting unlike fractions. Let's get to work. Please let me know if you need help.